boy! Dinosaur News, brought to you by the British People's League. It is still May 24th. Some of you out there may have noticed earlier I had done a video in honor of Her Majesty Queen Victoria, born May 24th, that we should know, 1819. So I did one the first time in 10 years that I've been doing videos. They goofed up a little technicality. Some of you out there probably think it got censored. No, it was my fault. I'm not going to let May 24th get by without getting this YouTube up. As said last video, we'll continue with the readings of the draft of the book in process for 45 years. Canada's Secret Civil War, 1979 until. My second try at today, so I'm punchy, 1978, because actually the first shots were fired. Official shots, yes, bullets were fired. And Boxing Day, December 1978. The reason for the head going all over the place, well, the teeth are being fixed still. So I guess I've laid out the groundwork. But if the volume doesn't work on this attempt, wow, I'll need a couple of weeks vacation. Okay. So we left off last week, inviting you to this current video, Chapter 1, Action. When the multi-cult power brokers realized that our boys were deadly serious, these same power brokers made sure our ringleaders had to flee immediately to Alberta until the smoke cooled off. In fact, the 8 brave corporate warriors who had the guts to risk all, put the old slogan to work: 1 step backwards, 2 steps forward. They hid out in the mansion residence of the then president of Burns Meats Company, outskirts of Calgary, Alberta. The limo driver, who resigned from a Toronto area police force to join our leadership ranks, our leadership patriots, he resigned from the Toronto area police force to join our leadership patriots. He whisked the 8 corporate warriors at full limo speed to Alberta. In his honor, my son has one of his names. As the wild administrative plan was hatched, these men became clearly marked for death. Obviously, the only way they would live would be with the success of the undertaking. Like all wars, be they open, secret, civil, or whatever, the blood of the martyr is the seed of success. These brave establishment men, the first up to the plate, put any criticism that they were snobs to permanent rest. It was now the turn of the ordinary rank and file of our people, off-duty firemen, police, military, etc. And we'll throw in a lot of volunteers from Britain and America as well. So it was now their turn to be fully advised as to the unbelievable plan to take our country back. Briefings took place. I witnessed the police station parking lot packed as the head of Stelco Steel back then urged patriotic men in blue to join with us in the dead of night activity to save Canada. This on Coxwell Avenue on the edge of the Beach District, Toronto. The first shots were fired on Boxing Day 1978 in the Laurentians, Quebec. What? Shots? Fired? Who fired what? And who? Planes, small planes, assembled at Buttonville Airport north of Toronto. Their mission? To have a chat with the Premier of Quebec over the Christmas holidays, 1978. The Toronto Sun, Thursday, December 28th, 1978, printed this most peculiar short blurb written by columnist Gary Dunsford, heading, quote, 25 words or less. Cormier says they are closing down the Nativac until after the holidays. Seems a team of French chimney sweeps is coming in to clean out the Premier's nose. Quote, under the photo, René Lévesque in for a sweep, end quote. At the same time, Pierre Trudeau thinks Canada is a, quote, powder keg packed with racial and regional tension. We may be relatively poor in arms and battle equipment, but we are well supplied with all kinds of potentially explosive feelings. Pierre, quote, Toronto Sun, December 31st, 1978, from Jamaica. Quote, all these feelings may explode at any time. When the future of the country is being called into question, end quote, Mr. Trudeau states. All this while extending his stay hiding out in Jamaica. As a matter of fact, a major Canadian newspaper over that wild and woolly 1978 Christmas period joked about the fact that no one person of the entire federal government Canada cabinet was in Canada. They all gone off for foreign lands. Continued the newspaper's editorial cartoon, Hatfield fled as far as Africa to be safe. Individually, the above quotes from Trudeau and the snippet about Lévesque don't mean much. Tied in with the British-Canadian Patriots flying out of Buttonville Airport, heading for Quebec, Boxing Day, December 26, 1978, Canada's secret civil war is on. Where and how does John Beattie get to tie in these strange clippings? You can either believe or not believe the truth of any of this. What does the short snippet about Lévesque getting his nose unplugged mean? Could French paratroops be the French chimney sweepers? Would they be saving Lévesque's life from the airplanes heading into the Laurentians over Christmas week, 1978? Throughout 1978-79 and the early 1980s, all kinds of weird clippings kept popping up in the public media. As deceased Archbishop Emmett Carter of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Toronto stated back then, way back then, quote, if you don't know something is going on, then I do not know where you live. Toronto Star headline, March 1979. Another gem if you care to do the research. These clippings can only be explained, in fact, with a secret civil war going on in Canada. Reference none other than Ed Broadbent, then the national leader of the New Democratic Party. Toronto Star headline, April 28th, 1979. And Toronto Star cartoon showing Broadbent raving to Joe Clark, former Prime Minister of Canada. Civil War, in quotes. So what have we so far? A few piddly news clips, and I'm supposed to convince you that a secret civil war is taking place in Canada. Only in Canada, you say? Name one other country in the history of Western civilization whose constitution was changed unilaterally, without the will of the people, and no shots fired? The threat of Quebec's secession, Trudeau changing the laws governing the very social fabric of Canada, and with all this, the British-Canadian elite and their friends are just supposed to sit back and smile? History and human nature never respond this way. Time now to exemplify somewhat in detail. Cancer killed my wife Hazel, maiden name Wilsteed, Beatty, in 1996. I have received permission from our son to name her and her heroic tie-in, she being the go-between myself and our command structure. Meetings were held in the boardroom of the Wellesley Hospital on Sherbourne Street, south of Bloor Street, in downtown Toronto. Coincidentally, the boys, from now on our command structure, will be referred to as the boys. Then my family tucked away exactly across the street in the bunker building at 565 Sherbourne Street, 7th floor. Hazel employed as a highly respected charge nurse with great seniority at the Wellesley. Convenient and expedient for the briefings to yours truly, to pass on by Courier Hazel, daily briefings 24/7 with full details. Many of these details can now be revealed. Most Canadians would obviously think a hidden civil war, a hidden secret civil war, would be impossible in our Dominion of Canada. Most hear the opening shots, the beginnings, verifying that I am off my rocker. Excuse me. I just had French toast for supper. Am I committing treason? This isn't about French Canadians. This is about power of nationhoods, tribes, tribal assets, etc. Most hearing the opening shots, the beginning verifying off my rocker. Our evidence is produced. Proof beyond doubt that actions of a secret civil war did take place in Canada, coast to coast. As one of our opening witnesses states to this very book draft. Coast to coast. Starting with the opening shots being fired on Boxing Day, 1978. Secret Civil War snippets, scenario, midnight explosions, mysterious daylight, hydro blackouts in Canadian cities across the nation. Overabundance of train derailments, including the Mississauga train derailment. Suspicious fires, such as the Women's McGill Club building in Toronto and the historic Rideau Club building in Ottawa, both being burned to the ground. Joe Clark actually witnessed the Rideau Club burning from his Ottawa Parliament Hill office window. A mysterious explosion at CFRB radio station in Toronto at the same time as unexplained massive holes in the plaster at Queen's Park, Ontario government building. All this while Premier of Ontario William Bill Davis welcomes more than a dozen Soviet representatives into the legislature in Toronto, while the nervous politicians applauded wildly. Pierre's sudden decision to resign after a late-night walk in the snow Pierre's cabinet having all kinds of peculiar physical accidents. John Monroe falling in his bathtub with severe bruises resulting. Hospitalized for 8 weeks. John Jameson falling onto rocks with near death resulting. End of quotation mark. This is just scratching the surface. Pierre's retirement residence right across the street from the Cuban embassy for 24-hour protection, perhaps. Obviously, two sides make for a Canadian Civil War. Secret or not. Neither side wanted it acknowledged by the general public, wanted to acknowledge it to the general public, as the Canadian dollar would have dropped to zilch value. The only way each side could report to those on the edges of each camp as to goings on was via mysteriously coded news clips intentionally inserted in the daily press, as referred to in the introduction herein. Wounded from our side, cared for at the Wellesley Hospital, east of Yonge Street in downtown Toronto. Wounded from the the enemy multicult side, cared for at a well-known hospital west of Yonge Street. So that's the end of today's reading. The next reading, whenever the date, will begin with Chapter 2, Plot to Kill John Beatty. So, 2nd or 10th, out of respect for Her Majesty Queen Victoria, her biological birth, May 24th, 1819. I have determined to get this up today. I hope like hell that the volume works this time. Thank you for listening. We mean business, legal business, of course. God save the King.